Texas A&M is not competing in the SEC in year one under Mike Elko. Is that a crazy take? I really don't believe so. In fact, I think it's a certified solid take. I'm joined now by Andrew Stefaniak of Locked On Texas A&M. Andrew, am I nuts for being down on the Aggies? Even though I love the Mike Elko hire, I think it finally gets Texas A&M to the nuts and bolts of what it takes to run a winning football program. I think it's really solid. I don't think year one is the year that Texas A&M fans should expect to compete in this SEC.
Competing in the SEC is tough. It's tough right now. And you're right. I'm a big Mike Elko guy. I think it's a great hire. The only argument I'd throw back in your face a little bit here is the schedule. The schedule sets up so perfect for the Aggies. Your difficult games are at home. Your easier games are on the road. And, Texas A&M's done a good job in the portal. They've done a solid job bringing in talent. But no, I'm not going to fight with you that are they going to compete with, Georgia and, even Missouri's good. Are they going to compete with these really top-end schools right now? Texas, of course, I keep forgetting that we have.
Ole Miss has got to be – Ole Miss has got to be in there for me as well. I love what Ole Miss has done.
I'm a huge – I'm not a huge Ole Miss guy. I think they're going to be good this year. But, yeah, I think I think with the way the SEC is right now, it's hard to make an argument for Texas A&M to really compete there. But I do think – and listen, everybody that knows about Texas A&M knows that you got these 5 stars, and everybody kind of makes a joke at Texas A&M because of what Coach Fisher did and not producing much with that talent. Everybody understands that. But – I think what Mike Elko is doing and what he's going to do will work. And while I don't think this team is going to be hoisting any kind of trophy this year when it comes to the SEC, I do think they'll really get in the mix at some point during his tenure in College Station.
Yeah, they've brought in the number 2 rated transfer portal class according to 24/7 Sports, and that's a reflection both of the volume of players and the caliber of players, and we'll get to some of the high impact guys there. But one of the reasons that I look at Texas A&M and say, okay, they're on the upward trajectory. You could call me in 2 or 3 years, as in 2025 or 2026, and say, okay, Texas A&M is an SEC contender. I might believe you if you gave me that call from the future. But right now, year one under a new coach, sure, there's talent on the roster, but plenty of talent has also departed, and you don't even have a top 5 quarterback. I think when coaches come in and have success right away, think Kalen DeBoer at Washington, for instance, what did he have? Michael Penix coming with him, who he immediately made into one of, if not the best quarterback in the Pac-12 over the last couple of years. It was kind of him, Caleb Williams, and Bo Nix for the last 2 seasons. And I don't think that Texas A&M has that. I think Connor Weigman is good. I think he's a little unproven. I'd like to see a little bit more. But when I can rattle off the top of my head 5 quarterbacks in the SEC who I would decisively take over him, and then there's a bunch of guys right after that are kind of in the mix, to me, that doesn't spell contender, because if you're going to win a conference as good and as deep as the SEC with a quarterback who's not inside the top 5, you have to have a ridiculous roster. And I think Texas A&M's is good, but I don't think it's going to overpower everyone else.
Exactly. And I'm not going to give you much pushback on the Connor Weigman argument. I agree with you, but I have made the argument that when it comes to ceiling and if it hits for him, watching him play with the athleticism he possesses, I love his ability to get outside of the pocket, and if nothing's there, take off. He throws a pretty football. He has great arm talent. He can really let it fly. He's a quarterback who has a ceiling of top 5. But yes, I'm with you. Projecting your top 16, ranking your 16 quarterbacks heading into next season, I'm not going to have Connor Weigman in my top 5. Now, I do think he should be in that 7 range around there. There's a lot of unproven guys, the kid at Tennessee, kid over to LSU, Oklahoma. There's a lot of unproven, highly ranked quarterbacks in this conference. Yep. You got to remember, Connor Weigman was a 5-star.
Yep.
He's played a few more games than some of these guys. And I think if he stays healthy last year, he would have had a really good year. And I think this conversation would be a little bit different if he stayed healthy last year. But you're right, he still is a bit unproven. And I think he'll prove that this year. I kind of think my personal take on this, I think when we look at, if we have a conversation at the end of the season next year, I think Connor Weigman will be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC. But heading into the season, I agree with you with the projection of him not being there. But I just, watching this kid play high school, play so far a few games in college, I just think he's got it. I think he's going to be really good. And I love the offensive coordinator hire. What Coach Colin Klein did, I think he's gonna really turn Weigman into a star.
I think Weigman has got that potential. I think he and Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma, Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee, Garrett Nussmeier down at LSU, they're in that kind of next tier of young, not quite fully proven. Nussmeier probably the most proven of that bunch so far. But you can go down the list. Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart. I think Jalen Milroe at Alabama is going to be helped tremendously by Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. When you look at their track record with quarterbacks, Brady Cook just led Missouri to an 11-win season in this SEC. I like what he did quite a bit. Carson Beck at Georgia, of course, is going to be one of the Heisman favorites going into this college football season. But I do think Weigman next year can get into that group. But Texas A&M this offseason, what have you seen in the transfer portal that you like? Who are the impact players in that highly rated transfer portal class that'll stand out for the Aggies this year to, at the very least, give them a chance to improve their win total? Because as you mentioned, their schedule is indeed favorable here. Just so people are aware, they open against Notre Dame, but they've got Missouri at home, they've got LSU at home, they've got Texas at home. They miss Alabama this year. They go at Florida, they go at Mississippi State, at South Carolina, at Auburn. It could be worse. Who from the transfer portal class is going to help Texas A&M increase their win total from 2023?
The number one guy is Nick Scorton at Purdue last season, 10-sack guy last year in the Big Ten. A player who, when you just watch, like I always tell my listeners over Locked On Aggies, if you're having a bad start to your morning, just go watch his highlight tape last season because it'll really get you fired up on a Monday morning. But other players, he's the proven guy. He's the proven Power 5 proven player. You've got some other guys like a Des Ricks, was a 5-star recruit to Alabama, wasn't there very long. Coach Saban retires, and now, he's at Texas A&M, a corner. That was a position last year for Texas A&M. The secondary got burned all year long. Coach Elko recognized that, and he's fixed that with a ton. I believe 8 players in the secondary, 3 safeties and 5 corners. Hey, that's a problem. That's a way to fix it, is going and bringing in warm bodies. I've said a ton. I mean, some of these guys, you can't swing and miss 8 times, I don't think. At least a couple of them got to be okay. But a guy I really like is a kid named Donovan Saunders, a corner from Cal Poly. And you kind of go, oh, what? Who cares? Watch the tape. I'm a big tape guy. I'm a big watch the tape guy. You can see the instincts. You can see the things that you need to be a dominant corner in the SEC, and he's got it. Now, how does it compare to the SEC? How does he, move into the SEC? It's going to be interesting. But Coach Elko, what I've loved about this portal class, I can sit here and read through all these names and tell you what each of these guys I think will do. We can do that. But the more significant point here for me is he's diagnosed what's wrong with this roster, who he's lost in the portal, and said, how do I fix these issues? Right after that bowl game, he got busy, and he got busy quick, and he's done a really good job bringing in talent to this roster that I do think gives Texas A&M a chance to be more competitive than a lot of people are giving them credit for next season.
Last thing to wrap up real quick here, Andrew. Your expectations are for Texas A&M to win how many games next year, approximately?
And this is purely based on the schedule. I think Texas A&M can win 8 games next season. I think anything more than that's crazy. I think they can win 8 games. I think you're in that range of 9-3 is crazy. 7-5 you can live with. 8-4 was great. I think that's the range for Texas A&M. But I think they'll win 8 games next year. And some folks will call me I'm crazy, and I appreciate it. And I get it after watching Texas A&M for years. But the Aggies can win 8 football games this year.
College football fans are nothing if not passionate. It's why we appreciate them very much. Andrew Stefaniak, host of Locked On Aggies on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Andrew, thanks for stopping by. We've still got more to get to here on Locked On College Football because guess what, everybody? It's Transfer Tuesday.